In this part of the challenge, you're going to make some text appear to look like it is gold. So we're going to start by creating a new file, and this new file is going to be default Photoshop size, but we're going to turn it landscape. So it's going to be 7 by 5. It's going to have 300 pixels per inch, and we are going to give it a black background. Okay, so we're going to go in and use our horizontal type tool, and we need to type the word gold, and mine is black at the moment. We want to go ahead and make that white, and we need to choose a thick font. So copperplate is fairly thick. Let me see if I can find a specific one. I don't know if it's on this computer or not. Yes, I'm going to choose stencil. You can choose stencil, you can choose something else. Just make sure it's a thick font. You also need to realize that if you choose something other than stencil, you may have to adjust some of the numbers a little bit differently than what I do. So now that I've got that, I want to go ahead and use my character panel to increase the size of it so that it is fitting my screen or my page more or less. And while it's selected, I can move this as long as I've got my control key down. So that looks good to me. I can commit that text and I feel good about that. Alright, so next thing I want to do is I actually want to go down here to my gold layer, and I want to double click so that I can apply a layer style. And on this layer style, the first thing I want to do is add a bevel and emboss. So the type of bevel and emboss I'm going to do is going to be an inner bevel. The technique is going to be chisel hard. The depth 100%, direction up. The size is going to depend on your font, but notice how when I move it, it gets kind of a slope in the middle. So right now mine is at, I think it says 103, and that's where I want mine to be. So yours is going to be somewhere in the middle as well in order to achieve this same kind of effect. The soften will be at 0 pixels. The angle 120. Notice how this moves, so you can move this little dial or you can type it in when you have something that you want to be exact with. I think typing it in is easier. The altitude we want to change to 30. And the next thing we want to do is this gloss contour. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. If I hold down the little arrow, I can see all the examples. And I know what it is when I mouse over it and it gives me the pop-up. However, if I click on the image part of it, it pops up with this contour editor, and then I can choose it based on the word up here in this list. So either way is fine, just whichever one you want to do. We are choosing ring, okay? And click OK on that one. And then when you get back here, we also need to check anti-aliased. Then over here on the left, just under bevel and emboss, we also need to check contour. The only thing we need to do here is check anti-aliased. Then we want to come down here to color overlay. We're going to make the blend mode normal, and then over here in the color picker, we are going to put in an RGB color. R stands for red, G for green, B for blue, and it's the amount of that color that's in there. So the R is going to be 247. I'm going to hit tab so I can go to the green, and that will be 170. Tab, and the last one is going to be 59. and that brings up kind of an orangish color. I realize it's not gold, but we're not done yet. I'm going to click OK on that, and we're going to add another layer style in here, and that is satin. Now, satin has quite a few things that we are going to change on it. The first thing that we want to do is change the blend mode. And the blend mode, we have those occurring in several different places depending on what we're working on. It greatly affects how things are viewed. So if I had it on normal, multiply, it's going to look differently than how I have it if it's on screen. And screen is the one we want to choose here. I want to choose white. Now, if I'm looking at this, I don't see white on here at the moment, but I know that the hexadecimal for white is FFF. So I can type that in, click OK, and I'm good with the color. Next, I'm going to change the opacity to 50%. It's there right now. I'm going to change my angle over to about 20, give or take. The distance, and again, these are the numbers that may be a little bit different depending on what your font is that you chose. But the distance I'm going to choose, I'm going to put in 22. The size, okay, so notice when I go down, the edges become more gold. When I move up, they're not. So I'm going to put this, I don't know, around 50-ish. Yeah, somewhere in the 50s. I also have another contour here. For this contour, I am choosing half round. And I want to make sure that I have invert selected. And after I do this, I may need to go in and adjust some numbers a little bit, and maybe not. I'm going to leave that about there. And I have got some gold colored text now, and I can click OK to apply that gold styles. If I turn off the background, it makes it look a little more different than if it was on the black background. Okay, so you can probably choose which one is going to work best for you. I'm going to go ahead and turn off that background, and I'm going to use my crop tool here. This is the crop tool. I want you to know that when you look in the properties up here, or the options, there's lots of different ways that you can set it. Okay, you can set it for specific size, specific ratio. I just want to be able to drag the edges to where I don't have a ton of space. When I'm satisfied with it, I double click to apply it, and then I can save it into my OneDrive. OneDrive. And remember, it is your period number, your last name, and this is going to be gold. You first save it as a Photoshop file, and then you'll save it again, save as, change the format to JPEG with the same name, and click OK for the default settings. And remember, the JPEG is what you're going to put on your portfolio.